Good evening. The Design Review Board 1 public meeting of August 11, 2011 is called to order. Please refrain from talking amongst yourselves during the meeting, and please turn off or put on vibrate all cell phones and pagers. If you need to talk, please leave the meeting room. Anyone who wishes to speak, including applicants, is asked to completely fill out one of the speaker's cards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff. You will be called to present a case or speak on a specific item as desired. Anyone who wishes to speak, anyone who wishes to be re-noticed about a project must completely fill out one of the postcards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff to receive notice of subsequent meetings. Current DRB agendas are available by calling our DRB hotline at 818-548-3171 or by visiting our website at www.ci.glendale.ca.us. A handout describing the procedures of the meeting, possible board decisions, and DRB reconsideration and appeals is available at the table by the front door. Please note that appeals must be filed within 15 calendar days of the DRB decision date. The chairperson may reorder agenda items at his or her discretion. Roll call. Mr. Ellis.
Present.
Mr. Insua.
Here.
Ms. Palmer.
Here.
Mr. Simonian is absent and Mr. Yu is absent. Report regarding the posting of the agenda. The agenda for this meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall at or before 5 p.m. on August 4th of 2011. Oral communications. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak on an item not a part of the agenda? Any cards by any chance?
Not for public, no.
Okay, great. We are down to the review calendar then. Staff does have one announcement. You received in your packet a letter from a adjacent property or adjacent a citizen of the Trader Joe's that is being constructed on Honolulu. It was addressed to you, that's why it was in the packet. Really can't discuss the letter tonight, but if you'd like to agendize the item, you certainly can at your discretion.
I would like to see us get some plans showing sections and things, just to review that.
Okay.
So, shall I move to agendize it? Or do I need to
Yeah, I
make a
think that's
motion?
what- that's what we need
I'll move
to
to
do.
agendize it at a future date. Send.
Okay, and so you'd like plans?
Plans, sections, elevations,
And a site plan with
site
elevation.
plan.
Is it worth asking the applicant back, or is that boat is sailed?
Well, what
okay.
I'll do is I'll look in the file, and
Okay.
this information should be there. We'll just include it in your packet, probably in the next meeting.
In 2 weeks. Okay.
And I know that you'll discuss this at a future agenda. I understand that project was approved, so this would be a discussion only.
Gotcha.
Thank you. Then we are down to our regular calendar. The first case is 122 North Verdugo Road.
Thank you, Mr. Kiesel. Good evening, Madam Chair, board members. The first design review case in front of you is 1 PDR 2011-029A, located at 122 North Verdugo Road. The proposal is to construct 465 square foot guest house attached to the existing detached two-car garage. Subject property is located in the R2250 zone. It is at the corner of Verdugo Road and Barrington Way. The lot size is, the lot size is 7,090 square feet. The proposal is attached to the garage, has its own entrance facing Barrington Way, and is detached from the main house. In terms of style and massing, staff believes that the proposal matches with the existing house. Some changes have occurred in the recent past to the main house, such as new siding, windows, addition that were exempt in 2010. Staff supports the project with a couple of minor comments and recommended conditions. I will quickly go over those. First one is, because staff believes the way it's designed today, it looks, in terms of design, it looks good, but because the entryway facing Barrington Way gives that appearance of a second unit, staff thinks it should be relocated to face the main house and not the street, so that it won't look like a second unit, because it's not a second unit.
Is it zoned for a second unit in this
It
area?
is actually, yes, it's a multifamily zone. If a developer wanted to put 2 units, could put 2 units, but parking would have to be met.
That's correct. So calling it whatever that saying, I can't remember what that saying is, but a rose by any other name would smell just as sweet. It appears to have, and we'll talk more in detail, but so it is zoned for 2 units
It
on
is.
this lot. Okay,
It
and we'll
is.
get into more detail. Okay, good.
So the second recommended condition is to redesign the north-facing, which is facing Barrington Way, north-facing wall, either to minimize or provide smaller windows for a more proportionate facade facing Barrington Way. However, if the entry is in fact relocated to the west side, the existing window size provided might in fact work with the size of the facade. And lastly, staff would like to see a landscape plan for review prior to any kind of building permit being issued.
I have a question for the staff.
We ready for questions?
I am finished.
If it was going to be considered a duplex, 2 units, how much parking would it require covered or
For
garage?
assuming each unit is at most 2 bedrooms.
So the granny or the grandfather, the whatever you're calling it, is a 1 bedroom. So as it's designed today, how much parking would it need?
If it had a kitchen inside, the entire site would need 2 additional parking spaces.
Okay. So if it had a kitchen inside, it would require an additional 2
Additional 2 parking
garaged parking.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
And if I may, I would also like to point out that the proposed guest house that's attached to the garage, there is no door or opening between the 2 structures from the interior.
From the interior.
That's being removed.
No, there just is no door. The guest house that's been attached to the garage will have a solid wall in.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. It'll be, there is a door now.
Yeah, that door will
they'll
be.
cover that up.
Okay.
So the door that we see there is covered up.
Any other questions?
No, I don't believe so. Forgive me, Madam Chair.
Sir.
In the, so formal today, in the previous approvals, you indicate that they got a permit for doing a re-roofing and replacing the existing stucco, or the stucco that was there before, with new siding.
Correct.
Did that permit include the existing garage as it stands today? Was that required in the permit to do the garage also? Because today the garage does not have siding, it has stucco.
I apologize. I am not familiar what was issued in 2010.
Okay.
I did go over the plans. I did not see anything about the garage. The person that did review may be able to recall whether he included the garage. My initial thoughts would be that no. And
I would presume
the siding of the garage will most likely be included in this one.
it does show that if the granny is approved, at least in the rendering, it does show siding.
Correct.
But if it's not approved, whatever. So, okay.
Okay, if there's no more questions, then we'll ask the, I have a card here for Rafi Gagosian, for the applicant. Could you just state your name and address for the record, please?
Gagosian, and my name is Haruna. I don't have much information, but I would like to answer question regarding the garage
Yes. Okay.
original.
Okay, thanks.
Part of the design.
Excuse me, Rafi, can you speak up louder and into the mic? Thank you.
relocating the entry.
Now I think you're good.
Now we can hear
Now
you.
I can
now
hear you.
now I can hear yourself.
Excellent.
Relocating the entry facing the house, which, if I may, can I? And regarding the landscaping, there's a landscaping at the front of the existing house. I'm not sure if the landscaping that the staff is requiring is the whole site to be landscaped or only the back portion of the site is going to be landscaped. So that's my question only. And if there's any question, I'm happy to answer.
I have a question. Are you going to be changing the existing vent on the garage to match those the rest of the
Yes.
Okay. So what's
And-
proposed is
Yeah.
what's going to be.
And if I may add, once I relocated the entry, the windows that are facing the Barrington Way, it used to be hung windows. Now all of them are casements.
Is that on the addition? On this unit?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And are you proposing to change the doors that face on Barrington on the existing unit? They show plain doors here, and you have gridded doors on the site,
On the house?
on the house, yes.
Well, I don't see. I have to discuss it with the owner if he wants to change it, or if we can leave it as is.
I'm just saying
And if
it's
it's a-
proposed to have
Yeah.
plain glass, and right now they're grids.
Okay.
So I'm just asking if that's going to be changed.
That's not part of the project. If you guys willing to add a condition on it, I have no
I'm
objection
just
to that
asking
one.
at this
Yes.
point. Okay.
I had just one quick question. In the note, it said that there's an existing permit that's still open for adding the windows. Is that any reason why that one has not been?
That because of the garage that we didn't put the siding on it.
That's why it's not
That's
open.
why
I
it's
got,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
So is it an accurate statement, because you have not done, so is it an accurate statement that both permits have been finalized, even though you did not put the siding on the garage as originally planned in the permit?
If I'm not mistaken, it's been final. Yes.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll close the public hearing.
Thank you.
Mr. Ellis, do you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start. I went out and visited the site. They've certainly improved the project. I think I could support with the staff's changes, because a little bit like Mr. Insua was bringing up, I kind of looked at it and I wondered, why aren't we just building 2 units? And the parking obviously is the issue. If you look at the site plan, it'd be tough to get 2 more garages in there. But I think with the changes that staff mentioned, the windows, I'm maybe not so crazy about yet. They seem to be awful big for that type of a small structure. I defer a little bit back to you guys, but with the changes as envisioned, I could support this.
All right.
Mr. Insua?
Okay, I too went and saw the project today, and I had a couple questions, because if it appears that this project is going in a direction, design-wise, occupancy-wise, that doesn't appear to be what's being reflected in the drawing, in my opinion. And that if it was a duplex of the design, some thoughts came to mind, and I wanted to review them with staff real quickly. We know, one, that if we were going to consider this a duplex, they would need an additional 2-car garage. Is there setback issues concerning a duplex on this project? Let's say, for example, we were considering this a duplex. Are there adjacencies and setback issues? Have you checked that?
The setbacks will be the same as it is for a guest house.
Okay. How about common areas and common use areas that we have?
That would be another requirement to provide
Okay.
at least 400 square foot common outdoor.
400 square foot common area. Parking setbacks, access, I took care of that. Okay. For me, the design, the work that's been done has been done extremely well, and it takes that corner and does a beautiful job with it. I have no question, no quarrel, no debate, nothing to to discuss with respect to the way it looks. It's done very nicely, and I'm sure that the balance of the work will be done very nicely. But I am completely not going to support this project because it is clearly going to be a duplex. And there are many other developers in this area, many people who want to make duplexes, many people that want to add square footage to their homes and make them income properties that have to follow the rules. And it would not be fair, in my opinion, to allow a project, even though it's done very well, that has so many indicators that it's going to be clearly a duplex. The location is a very high, busy thoroughfare, lending itself to duplex or multiple housing. The area has multiple housing. It's not fair for all those other people that have had to follow the rules and those in the future that are going to have to follow the rule when I see so many indicators here that it's going that way. Common area is a critical thing when you have duplexes. People have the quality of life, and the architecture is fabulous. Again, I say you've done a terrific job. The common area would be 400 square feet. That's something that we always say is important. That's what we try to strive to do. Quality of City of Glendale and any community. And the additional two-car garage is so critical for multiple units to get cars off the streets, especially in a high-density area. Why do I say those things? Because clearly when you look at the floor plan of the addition, clearly when you look at that area that says no cooking facilities, that is clearly going to be a small kitchen. It's got the layout of a small kitchen. You got a dual sink in there with all the sides on the side for cabinetry, kitchen, cooking top. It's not fair. A couple years ago, Mr. Ellis and all of us were discussing a project that just looked as if it was not going to be doing what they were indicating, and he went by that project himself and saw that they in fact did not do what they were going to say, what they were saying they were doing on the project. That doesn't mean that this one is not going to do it, but there's so much here that I believe that we, staff, should be ensuring that it's going to not be this way, that I can't approve it. Whether you change the door to the, and even the door that's facing towards the street, it's not something that I can support, not because of its architecture, but because it's a duplex. And there are critical areas that make quality of life for duplexes not being followed here, and I think that's not fair for all those other people that do follow the rules.
Staff really can't presume something?
I'm aware of that. I've been on this board long enough. I'm aware of what the thing is, but I can't support it. It's not fair for all those other people. And I know what staff's and my limitations are, but you see it. It's too obvious.
May I jump in? I mean, is it something that could we say, well, it's okay, but you can't have a sink? You know, you can make living space, but that step to a kitchen. I empathize with your position here.
Yeah, I mean, typically the board is concerned with exterior work,
right?
And kitchen sinks or sinks are permitted in a guest house or in a pool house or whatever you want to call them, and it's not considered a kitchen facility. So I would stay away from the prohibition of sink.
Can I ask a couple questions then? Again, we've all been doing this a long time, and we've seen projects like this. Forgive me, I didn't want to jump in.
No, that's fine.
It's a duplex. It's got its own bedroom, its own closet, its own bathroom, its living area, dining area. The floor plan is a separate living area. I think what we should do is make sure that there are some, and I don't want to be, I want to remember all those people that have been following the rules for a long time and all those who are going to be following the rules in the future. I think we should say that, and it's a building safety issue, it's a code issue, not a design review, and I'm well aware of that. But, restricting, well, you can't. I mean, you're going to have gas here. Gas is going to be provided to this unit because you have a shower. Mm-hmm. So it's not going to be that much harder to put in a gas oven and gas range. If you look at the floor, I mean, I'm well aware. I'm just thinking about all those people that follow the rules, that clearly show that it's a granny or that type, and it doesn't and by doing it, and if it does get converted, some critical, important things are going to be left off of this project, which is parking, off-site parking, and common areas. So that's I'll just leave it at that.
I happen to agree with you, but we can't necessarily restrict this. If we were to pass this, I would want aside from the building itself, the way it's purported with the walkway in the front, that's not where it is at this point in time, so when the existing walkway is going to be right up against the building with about 6 inches to spare, which would not allow for any planting. I would like to see it tied together you've got some fencing out there tied together and fenced maybe that whole area so it becomes like the 2 units looking like they're in 1 yard area. Redo that walkway. As far as the landscaping goes, I think that whole side portion on Barrington is what needs to be redone, and you have a lot of palm trees and things that don't necessarily comply with the water-wise plantings. I'd like to see a cohesive landscape plan that ties the new unit with the old unit, and as I say, a new walkway, and that the driveway be redone. Right now, it's sort of a broken-up asphalt drive. So in order for me to even look at approving this, I'd like to see at least the 2 buildings tied together with the landscaping and hardscape. Those are my comments.
I mean, the reality is there's enough space here. If they took the garage and that second unit out and reconfigured a 2-story parking down below and a unit up above, you could end up with a second unit. I mean, it doesn't seem like there's jam for space. Obviously, it's a cost issue, but...
That's not for us.
Yes, and that's not what we're seeing here. Right.
Any other comments? Did you write anything down?
Yes, I tried.
Well,
I tried. So Mr. Ellis generally agreed with staff and the 3 comments made by staff, and Ms. Palmer went into more deeper discussion about the landscaping and how the 2
If
structures could be
we
tied.
can't, I mean, I don't think it's a granny unit either, but for me to approve it, I would want to tie it together with my comments.
With landscaping, hardscaping, and a fence, possible fence connecting the 2 along Barrington Way. And a question about the walkway, if I may. Did you mean to move it away from the building to
We need
provide
to
more
get some planting against that,
against the building?
against the building.
Oh, so the
right
walkway
now,
would
it's
be
a
moved
concrete
towards the
walk
street.
that's been added to and taken away, and it's really in about another 1.5 feet from where it is, because it's right on the corner of the garage.
See that? I think you can see it in one of
So I'm sorry, I'm just wanting to be clear. Your comment is not about where the walkway is shown in the drawing, it's about where the existing walkway is?
My comment is the existing walkway,
Okay.
the proposed unit would go in. It would,
I see.
walkway would be up against,
Okay, the walkway that's shown here as existing walkway
correct,
Right.
is not correct and needs to be moved further away from the building so that there could be
some planting.
some planting in
Couple
that
feet of planting
area. And is there a minimum dimension that you
Say
would recommend?
30 inches.
Okay,
to allow
30
some
inches. Because it appears that there's not, it's hard to tell in this drawing, but it's about 13 feet from where the current entry is to the property line. The walkway will need to be at least 3 feet wide. So if it's 30 inches on one side, it can be more than 5 feet facing the street. I just want to make sure that we're not creating a condition where there's not enough landscaping adjacent to the street.
What's the minimum?
Well, it's not about, I don't think we have a requirement for a minimum.
I'm just exchanging one space for another.
Exactly.
so-
Okay. And then there's an existing fence along that.
Portion of a fence.
Okay, that doesn't appear to be shown on the plan.
It's really clear in the picture. You can see that the walkway actually, as it says existing walkway, but it actually doubles up against the building. You know, it's not a
Right.
couple
Right.
feet
And the
to
fence
the curb.
goes a portion across that open
Right.
space. So in order to tie the buildings together, I'd like it to see it maybe go clear to the garage and encompass the whole yard, make that a whole yard, so it looks like the unit is within the yard.
So you're not asking for the fence to be removed, you like the existing fence as it is in its current design to be elongated?
Extended
Okay,
to the main.
great.
And then tied to the garage.
And tied to the garage. Great, that's
That
helpful.
puts the walk outside or inside, whatever they want to do, but provide some planting adjacent to that building.
Great, thanks, that's clear.
Would it be appropriate to move this for a redesign,
Well,
or for a comeback a second time, or are these changes things that could be covered?
this is something if
minor.
Okay.
Chair Palmer is comfortable with us administering it.
It's just minor, it's just,
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that we typically administer. And is it a requirement to remove some of the existing palms that they're,
I think in making a landscape plan that would be cohesive, the side does not work with the front, and it's just, you need to have something that ties together.
so you'd really
I mean,
like,
some of the palms or whatever is necessary.
you'd like to see a new landscape plan for the entire site rather than
think
having
the
a lot
front-
of existing planting
I
remain?
think the front is adequate.
Okay,
If they want to do something to enhance the side to complement the front, that's
Okay.
acceptable too.
great. Thank you very much for that
And that we
clarification.
go with the sideways entry.
Right.
Yes,
Right.
those are the original recommended conditions by staff.
Right. As proposed.
And what about the windows facing Barrington? Would you like to see those
I
used
don't have a
inside?
major issue with them.
Yeah, the understanding is that that we had from the applicant is that once the entry moves, there will be casement windows rather than the single hung windows. And I don't think we have a new drawing for that, do we? Oh, was that
there is
provided to
something
you?
that's come. Does it show?
Yes.
It shows on the new one here.
as
Okay,
casements?
and is that adequate? That's acceptable
Yeah, I
to
think it's
you?
acceptable. I just am concerned that they show this door is now a gridded door on site.
Well, our understanding is that on that existing building is not part of the scope of work at all.
So it's just drawn incorrectly.
Right.
Okay.
So
So are we
that-
ready for a motion?
have a motion.
Sure, I'll move to accept the project with the conditions as stated by staff and by my colleagues.
And is there a
Yeah,
second?
Yes, I'll second that.
You need to pass the gavel.
I will second that, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we have a motion made by Mr. Ellis to approve the project with the the mentioned conditions. Second by Ms. Palmer. This is a roll call. Mr. Ellis?
Yes.
Ms. Palmer?
Yes.
Chairman Pro Tem Insua?
No.
Okay, motion passes 2-1. Thank you.
We're done. Discuss it with staff.
You can have the applicant come and
Okay,
make a
even after we've
statement.
voted on it?
It would just be that's something that, there had been some concern that once a board makes the motion, if there's
Okay
an
with-
immediate concern.
Okay.
Okay, just to clarify, if there's an immediate concern by the applicant that could be brought to the board's attention, it's not uncommon that you would hear from the applicant, and then you could always reconsider the motion if necessary.
Okay. We're done with that one. The second one will be 1045 Elenita.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. Next case before you is 1-PDR 2011-026A. And once again, this is at 1045 Ilenia Avenue. I'm going to approach the board for my presentation. This project is to construct a 571 square foot first level addition, which primarily takes place at the front, and a new 404 square foot second level addition on this existing single family home. The subject property is approximately 8,000 square feet in size, irregular in shape, and has a subtle incline from Island Ave to the rear. The property was developed in 1951 with a 1,492 square foot single-family residence with an attached two-car garage, and it was designed in a ranch style. The zone of the property is R1R, Floor Area District 2. There is one protected tree, which is on the adjacent parcel at the rear. The urban forester recommends a clearance pruning should be done between the subject home and the identified, between the subject home and the identified specimen tree. Clearance pruning should be, must be done with a qualified tree care professional. Onto the site planning of the project. The project will not extend closer to Islandita Avenue. What I mean by that is the existing two-car garage, which faces the street, is 15 feet away. The first level addition will still be taking place at the front. However, it will be set back 23 feet away. For the most part, the interior setbacks will remain unchanged. The only one that will be changing is along the, I can't find the north arrow, I believe this is the west side. It's going to be as close as 6 feet 3 inches from 7 feet 4 inches. Staff anticipates some of the landscaping in the front will be compromised during construction. Staff recommends as a condition a professionally drawn landscape plan should be provided so that landscape replacement can be reviewed by staff during the building permit process. There is a birch tree at the front that is proposed to be removed, and it just says to be replaced with a new tree. Staff recommends that a 24-inch box of a California-friendly tree type should be replaced in its place, and staff recommends that landscaping should, for the whole palette being retrofitted, should be California-friendly. Onto the massive scale of the home. The typical ranch-style homes have a strong horizontality, which exhibits a sprawling and low-lying form. The proposed addition, although it is on the top, it does incorporate a horizontal expression where the second level addition sets upon the higher portion of the lot. As you can tell, the street does have, can't tell from the elevation, but the street does flow with a subtle incline where the second level is on the higher portions of it. And on the architectural style, the applicant specifies the proposed designs to maintain the ranch style of home. The textures proposed would be a combination of smooth stucco, hardy plank siding, vinyl block frame windows with wood sills and surrounds, composition shingles. And although a door has not been identified, we don't have yet as far as on the material board. Staff recommends it should be a constructive wood and have a simple two-panel design to complement the ranch style of the home. Overall, it's opinion of staff to the project should be approved with the following conditions. One, a professionally drawn landscape plan should be provided at the front for the front yard, indicating the new palette should restore the damage. I'm sorry. A professionally drawn landscape plan should be provided for the front yard, indicating the new palette that will restore the damaged landscaping. Two, a 24-inch box California-friendly tree should be planted in the front yard to replace the European white birch proposed to be removed. Three, at the recommendation of the urban forester, a no-fee pruning permit must be obtained to trim the identified oak tree at the rear on the adjacent property to the east. Clearance pruning must be done with a qualified tree care professional. Optimal time frame for the oak tree pruning is between the months of July and September. Condition number 4, the new front entry door should be constructed of wood and have a simple two-panel design as drawn to complement the ranch style of the home. Before I conclude my presentation, staff did receive a letter of opposition from a Mr. Ian D. Cugley. His concerns, in summary, was that the height will tower over the adjacent dwellings. As he says, it's most notable from Dolorita, which is at the rear. This is Islandita, and Dolorita is at the rear right here. Second concern is about The garage is small. It's 365 square feet. There's not adequate amount of parking for the single-family residence with the addition. Point number 3 would be Oak Mountain Woods is a low-density neighborhood surrounded by beautiful wooded slopes. The giant addition and the second story conflict with the character of the neighborhood and should not be encouraged. But this concludes staff's presentation. I'm available for any questions as well as the applicant.
I have one question. The garage, the minimum size, since this is not the minimum size, is there,
Well,
has to be done regarding that, or?
thank you. I should have added that. Today, if you were to provide a new two-car garage, the interior dimensions would have to be 20 by 20. But given the day of the time this was built in 1951, we do take in combination of legal nonconforming status of the interior spaces. What he's providing here is 17 feet 9 inches by 18 by 11. Generally, we look at as long as it's 18 by 16 of that era, we're going to say, okay, you know,
Holds 2 cars.
yeah, we'll still consider it as a two-car garage. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Not of staff, I think.
Okay. I will open it up. Mr. Naravian, please give your name and address.
Good evening, Madam Chair and board members. My name is Franco Naravian, 409 West Broadway, Glendale, California, 91204. I'm the architect on the project. This is a small second-story addition. In that email, I think they called it a giant addition. It's only 404 square feet on the second floor. There's an additional 571 square feet on the first floor. And where the addition is placed, it's in the back. And the reason for that is because I think all the homes except for one house on Islanita are one-story. So we thought placing the addition, 2 houses? Okay. So most of the houses are one-story. So by placing the second story in the back, we have less of an impact on our street. And I've provided, you can look at your site plan, that there's almost 12 feet of setback from the west to the second floor. Also setback from the back, from the east. So there is, it's set back from all sides to mitigate its impact on the immediate neighbors. And as far as the neighbors concerned, that's from Dolorita looking up. We should keep in mind that Islanita is only halfway up. It's not all the way up. So when you're looking up at it, it's not like the second-story addition will take away the blue sky. You're looking at it up against a green background of the hill that leads up to, I think it's Emmanuel Drive, all the way on top. So I think from such a distance, I think the impact is not that great on anybody looking up from the back, that would be looking up from the north. We already talked about the garage issue, and that's all I have. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Any questions?
You know what, I got a couple quick questions for you.
Sure.
On the existing plan, when I looked at it, I was a little confused because there seems to be 4 windows along I guess that's the east side of the house, that back bedroom that's existing.
Back bedroom.
Yeah.
Existing. Yes.
It has a window in it.
Yes.
Okay, so it's only indicating 3 I've noticed on the plan. So is there not going to be a window in the new? Are you taking that window out?
No, in the back? We're not doing anything
Well,
in the back.
let me show you.
Oh.
If you go look at the project, there's 4 windows on this side of the house. And if you look here, you're in your existing, you only show 3.
There's
another one
a
back
4th
here.
one. Oh, I missed that
and
one.
so there isn't on there. Is that coming out?
No, I
That's
missed
missing.
that
Okay.
one. So
All right. No, that's-
thank you for pointing that out.
Well, because I got confused as I started counting windows. Are they replacing all the windows in the house?
No, the existing windows are, I think they're vinyl. The proposal is for the new windows to be block frame, so they'll be recessed, and we'll have a wood sill. And we prefer not to touch, because
Right.
the addition is in the front, so you won't see the rest of the windows that are in the back. So all the windows in the front will be block frame with a wood sill.
Okay.
Yeah.
The fireplace is gone,
Yes.
but I notice on the plan, it appears that there is a fireplace indicated back in the living area, under the staircase, or is that just a...
Oh, yes, I'm glad you pointed it out. There will be a fireplace.
Where's
but
the flue?
There is no flue. There is no more wood-burning fireplaces allowed. So
Okay.
this will be a direct vent, gas only.
The direct vent gas only, okay. I think that were my couple questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
So there is a window back here.
Okay. Close the public. Mr. Sua.
I think with the staff comments and stuff, it's a project I could support.
Yep.
That's it.
Mr. Ellis.
That's why I'm sitting over here. You know, I went out and looked at it. It's an interesting house. Personally, I find the proposed the frontscape or the front door area, that front wall, is really plain. I mean, it's got character in the existing house, and as it's drawn here, to me, it's a really big letdown. I don't know if making the door a two-panel door is the solution. But it's going. The second story doesn't bother me. I think that it fits in very nicely. But the front, it's just gotten so plain, and I don't quite know what a suggestion would be to jazz it up, but as opposed to maybe just repeating what currently exists. Because if you look at the existing house, there's some pieces around the window, and there's just a little bit much more character.
I think it may be just the drawings.
Well, it could be, but to me, it went backwards from what I looked at the house out there. I said, "Oh, please, can you just give it a little more character?" I mean, it's changing the door out. You guys looking at professionals here? You think that helps? Or is it some lights along the side of the door? I don't know quite what it is. To me, it looked really very plain.
I think it looks similar to what's there, and I think the drawing just looks flat.
Is that okay?
Maybe the entry door might be recessed a little bit more just to give it a little depth and more shadow. But I would support the project. I don't have any problems with it. As far as the two-story effect, I don't think it's going to be an issue, because some of those houses on that street look like 2 stories because it's all roof going up, and this just happens to have layering. So I would support the project.
I was going to say, because I looked at it from the back seat and thought back street, and it didn't seem to be a second-story issue on that. On my new term on the design review board, I've been kind of silent about vinyl windows, but they still make me crazy. I mean, both of these projects, the previous one and this one, and because they have existing windows, I understand it, but
Well, I think these with the wood sills, and I would request that we have a section on those windows, just to make sure.
I actually, I should have attached it with your staff report, but there is a section he did provide.
They are typical vinyl. I mean, there is some recess.
yeah.
No more questions? We ready to vote?
Is the detail adequate?
Looks okay to me. Did you think it's? Oh,
Can I see it?
Oh, yes. One more time.
I didn't. No.
Would you like some glasses?
No.
similar to what's there. You want to read the comments?
From what I heard is, I guess you pretty much the board agrees with staff, except maybe recessing the door to provide.
It's just a comment. I mean,
Would you like to make that like a consideration?
consideration.
Sure. And that's pretty much I have right now. That's it.
Okay. We ready for a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve with the staff comments and
I'll second.
Okay, this will be roll call. Board member Ellis.
Yes.
Board member Insua.
yes.
Madam Chair Palmer.
Yes.
We have a 3-0 vote to approve the project with the staff's suggested conditions, with the added condition to recess the door.
That was a consideration, correct?
Consideration, yes,
Yes.
correct. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Not thinking here. Can't
Need
find
an
the
agenda?
cover sheet. The next project is 1811 West Kenneth Road.
Thank you, Madam Chair Palmer and board members. Good evening. The last item for your consideration tonight is located at 1811 West Kenneth Road under project number 1 PDR 2011-021A. The applicant is proposing to demolish the existing single-family residence and detached garage and construct a new single-story residence and a new detached garage. The proposed square footage of the new residence is 2,106 square feet, and the new garage will be 500 square feet on a lot that is 7,250 square feet in area. Staff is calling this the proposed style of the residence as a neo-historic revival with influences of the Spanish colonial revival architecture. The existing property was developed in 1926 with a 1,879 square foot residence and a 410 square foot garage. Again, as I stated earlier, both of these buildings will be demolished. The house has some influences of Spanish style, particularly at the front facade. However, the existing garage is clad in vertical sidings. Both buildings have been modified. Previously, the house has been added to under previous permits. These buildings, as this exists right now, are not consistent with one another in terms of their architectural styles. The parcel is the subject parcel is flat rectangular lot, interior lot, bounded by Irving Avenue and Thompson Street. So this is located in the northwestern portion of the city, close to the Burbank boundary. The existing residence is centrally located on the lot, while the two-car detached garage is located in the northwest corner, rear of the lot, and accessible via a driveway from Kenneth Road. The proposed residence and garage meet the current zoning requirements in terms of its size, lot coverage, landscape, and setback requirements. This property is located in the Glenwood neighborhood, which is considered a woodlands neighborhood. Homes in this neighborhood were typically built between the typically built on one level and tends to have uniform front yard setback and well landscaped front yards. But the most important consideration would be to the building mass and scale and its consistency with the fabric of the existing neighborhood. In terms of the building's mass and scale, as you can see, the proposed project will be larger than existing home. But due to its one-story configuration and modulation, the residence does not appear to be massive or out of scale with the neighborhood context. For example, the front elevation is broken up with an entry court and rotunda between the two street-facing rooms. To a lesser degree, the rear elevation also reflects this strategy. All the elevations show a consistent fenestration pattern reflective of this style, which is the Spanish colonial style. The combination of hipped and gable roof design also helps in reducing the massing and lessens the perceived height, particularly at the front elevation. Appropriate massing is further achieved by the breaks in the building's roof design, as evidenced at the entry rotunda and the lowered roof at the rear portion of the house. The garage, as is being presented to you today, is simply reflected as a rectangular box with a single garage door opening, developing its design further by providing even a pedestrian door or windows or combination thereof on the south or east elevation would help this building become more similar to the house. The proposed building is 17 feet in height, so this is well under the height requirement. And also, as I stated before, all setback, including the front, will meet today's code. So the applicant is proposing the minimum 25-foot front yard setback. The maximum floor area of this property is 30% of the lot area. I may not have stated, but this property is zone R1, which is single-family flat land with floor area ratio District 1. So the proposed square footage at 2,106 square feet is essentially 29%, essentially maxing out the square footage on this lot. 30% would bring the house to 2,175, so you're looking at about a 66 square foot difference. As I stated, earlier, the subject property is located in an established neighborhood, primarily of residences designed in both the Spanish colonial revival style and minimal traditional styles. The proposed project will be an improvement over the existing condition. Certain design features and materials support the overall aesthetics. Some of these features and details include the entry tower, the front open courtyard, the arched entry, the tapered chimney, exposed rafter tails, smooth stucco, and decorative vents. However, the proposed S tile should be two-piece barrel tile in order to to provide for appropriate quality. Likewise, if you look at the front elevation, you notice that there a combination of roof styles. You have the hip roof and the gable roof. The juxtaposition of the two roof design makes this project appear sort of interesting to a certain degree. As I stated earlier, we're calling this project as a neo-revival style residence as opposed to a true Spanish colonial revival style residence. So staff felt that this combination of the two various roof design appeared to work in this situation. However, some features appear to be at odds with the overall design. For example, the walls and gate enclosing the front courtyard appears out of scale in regards to its height. Staff believe that both of these features should be lowered to open the entry court further. The entry rotunda, including the arch opening, appears wide and stout. Reducing its width will help the proportion. Where the doors meet the walls at the point of attachment, 90-degree angle should not be created. Instead, the doors should be installed so that they follow the arch of the walls. I'm not sure this was clear in terms of the way it was.
Yeah, that one's, you got me on that one, too.
What staff meant by that, if you're looking at the floor plan, see how the applicant sort of created a 90-degree point of attachment here. We're saying the door should be a continuation of the arch rotunda instead of boxing the corners. Again, the roofing material should be two-piece barrel tile rather than proposed S tile. The attic vent depicted on the north elevation over the side door is misplaced and should be eliminated. The vents on the west elevation appear too small in relation to the size of the gables. Larger vents, such as a scallop design, may improve their relationship to the gable size. The front street-facing living room window in this type of home tends to be a special feature, and its treatment is generally different from the other windows. For instance, it should be a larger fixed window set in a recess with a plastered seal. The proposed window appears ordinary, and the planter in front of it makes it look shorter. All windows should be wood or fiberglass and should be installed recessed from the face of the wall, and should not include the proposed vinyl pan windows. As proposed, all windows will be treated with lintels on the top and seals on the bottom. The lintels should not be foam, but should be made of wood or concrete. And all windows should be single or double hung or casement or fixed or combination thereof with external or dimensional grids. These are some of the design proposal or materials that were proposed that staff felt could be improved to further refine this project. But overall, given the overall project, the scope and the mass and scale and its design integrity, staff able to support this project. However, we would make some recommended conditions, and there are 11 conditions. I may go over them if you like.
Okay. Any questions?
Well, I was, but I think I've answered it myself, so I didn't need to ask it.
I don't have any cards. Did you want to speak at all? Just remember to fill out a card before you leave so that we have a card. Sure. Give us your name and address, please.
Wallace Fu, 4424 Santa Anita Avenue, suite number 205 in El Monte. I'm the architect on the project. In designing this house, we try to make the appearance to be more subdued, to be more compatible with the neighborhood. And we actually went through the design with your staff members. Particularly, there's a historical specialist in your city. We spoke to him, and he recommended a few changes, and that's how we came up with the current design. And I don't have much to add to brother's comments, so I'm open to questions.
Do we have any questions?
Are the conditions from staff, are those anything, problems with any of those, or are you?
I already discussed those conditions with my client, and we will be able to improve the design. But I do have a couple of questions. First one is the barrel tile. Do we have an option to go with the S tile, or do we have to stick with the barrel tile? That's my first question. Second question is regarding to the width of the rotunda. We could massage that a little bit, but basically it's a requirement in the architecture program that I create enough space because the client, they do have family gatherings sometimes, and he noticed that a lot of time when we have a small entrance and when all the guests are trying to leave at the same time, it could create congestions at the entrance area. So that's why we have a rotunda of about, I believe, I remember correctly, it's about 8-foot radius, diameter. So that's how we came up with that rotunda width. We could work on it, but I'm trying to see if the city has a requirement, how little we have to reduce it to.
These are just recommendations by staff, so for us to discuss. So
Okay.
at this point, it's not a requirement.
Yeah, understand.
Do we have any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to close the public session.
Thank you.
You want to go ahead and start?
Yes. Rather, can you help me understand I still didn't get it. Reduce the width of the entry rotunda. I understand the width. And maybe someone can help me. And then the arched door opening. What did that mean? I know you went up there and showed. I didn't quite get it. If maybe you missed.
Yeah, I think there's another number here. I
But
think
what does that? How would it change?
5.
He was supposed to
Right.
come in. I think that's what he was saying.
I guess instead of making this 90-degree connection here where the door meets the wall,
Right.
you would
Can you go ahead and-
simply continue the arch, and the door would be
Forward of that.
the door would just meet where the arch ends. instead of making a 90-degree.
Okay, so the arch ends here, and it
Yeah, the
set-
curved door. Then the door would be like this.
Okay, and then the door, are you saying to keep it in its same hinge point, or would
Yes,
you consider moving it forward?
Whatever's necessary to maintain this.
Moving it
Yes,
forward.
Okay,
yes.
okay,
Okay.
okay, I think I'm understanding it better now.
Didn't understand, I guess.
Yeah, okay.
Just to clarify that Mr. Insua, just to clarify that question you asked of staff, that condition or comment was generated in this discussion with the historic preservation planner.
Yes. To stay more consistent with the nature of the architecture.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going down the list. Okay, consider attachment, okay, consider. When I look at the window schedule, it appears that the only two windows that are not double hung, they're different, are windows number 7 and 8. They're in the back. So the bedroom windows 7 and 8 appear to be the only ones that on the window schedule are shown as double hung windows. If we look at sheet A2, windows 7 and 8 appear to be double hung. So those are the only ones that are not the double casement windows. It's in the rear of the house. Yes, sir.
And also, I like to point it out, which I neglected to mention in the staff report, the applicant is also proposing a solarium-type window or garden window
Yes,
over the kitchen sink.
yes, down the
And
driveway.
there's a photo of that. It's part of that material board. The top. Yes. That would project beyond the wall out.
Right,
Yeah.
down the driveway. And it looks like they're not a clearance problem, so that's okay. Okay, all in all, I think that it's done very nicely. In spite of going to the maximum lot coverage of almost 30%, I think the architecture is nice. These little tweaks, I think, enhance it. I'm not too concerned about the windows because it's only the two windows in the rear that are the double hung that are different. You can't see it, but they're still quality vinyl windows. So the only one that I definitely, all those other things, I would gravitate more towards considerations other than the S tile, make them double barrel clay tiles, two-piece barrel clay tiles. Other than that, I would lean more towards consider and let the architect finish the tweaking. But I would definitely agree with staff comments with respect to the entry into the patio. It does look a bit large, and I've seen a couple homes that do it large, and it turns out nice. I would suggest reducing its height so that it is more in proportion with the width of the house, width of the lot. But if you can successfully keep it high, if you want to go that way and it's done well and staff sees that it's executed, revised well, I would be okay with that. But it does look a little large and out of scale for what you currently have. Other than that, I would support the project.
Mr. Ellis?
Thank you. I would tend to agree. I thought when I first looked at it that the front was a little big. Horsey in the advertising world is what they call it. And I would agree with staff on that. I think, just to correct you, Mr. Insua.
Yes, sir.
Staff was requesting that the windows all be or conditioning wood or fiberglass as opposed to vinyl. And that would, predicating my previous conversation, I would say we'd go that way. I was a little concerned when I looked at the plans to see that they were pushing out on the setback into the front yard. Although, if the plans are correct, it's only about 6 foot over their neighbors, the neighboring buildings. But when you stand there and look at the property, they're all back up there quite a ways, and that's always a concern, especially on Kenneth or the streets that we have the wide open front setbacks. And I think you were referencing, Mr. Dong, the polystyrene casings. That's the foam that you're?
Yes.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah, I noticed those. Let's see. I had one other. Yeah, okay. Now, I guess the other one I was looking at when we've talked about that, the diameter of the entryway, I think with a little bit of reconsideration by the architect, you ought to be able to make it look a little better. Other than that, also the height of the walls, definitely that front wall is a little fortress-like. And when you take the wall away and you look at the view, I like it a little much better without the wall on the gate. But I understand the front yard and the courtyard, and it fits into that Spanish style. So I think I could support this also with the conditions that staff has implied, as opposed to making them considerations. I think they all fall into the condition.
If I may ask, and I know you're still deliberating, but I would just like to mention, based on what the architect mentioned in regards to the dimension of the rotunda, the plan shows that is a 12-foot diameter. The architect indicated that he was probably not inclined to reduce that. If the board would like that to be reduced as a condition, if there's a range that you would consider, since that might be a challenge for staff once that gets to the staff level if it's not a specific, yeah.
So,
I agree with my colleague's comments. I think at that entry, in looking at the houses and driving up and down the street, there are courtyard effects, and they're all shorter walls. If you want to get more privacy, you could consider either if you can make the taller wall work with maybe some holes in it, like also shown in the upper rotunda area, or maybe put a trellis across the top, just something to make that wall look less ominous. And I agree with staff's comments. I have one comment. The garage door, is it really the color it shows? It looks, I have one picture that's orange, one's the darker orange.
I believe the photos of the garage door that's submitted as part of the material board is closest to the actual material.
Is this the color it's going to be? Okay.
to answer Ms. Reich's question, I just did a quick, it looks like it's 33 feet on that street face, and the rotunda is 12 feet interior, I believe. So it's, you know, I would think a third of the width or less across the front. No, it's more than a third now. It's, you know, because if the walls are, what, a foot thick, so it's 12, it's 14 feet, and you only got 33 across.
It's on the interior.
Well, it's 12 on the interior. So,
But from what you see from the front, it's not.
no, so it's more than 12 on the outside, right? If it's 12-foot radius interior?
Just looking at a quarter of a circle on the exterior portion.
Well, you're looking at that looks like a half a circle to me, doesn't it?
Oh, you're talking about the top, okay.
Yeah, I was that center section, and you know, and I understand that, you know, the owner,
I see what you're saying.
you know, that entranceway, there must be a way to maybe narrow it a little bit, but still retain some of the space inside, without taking it out too much. But right now, it's, you know, it's 14 out of 33, so it's, what is that, 45% of the front width seems to be the tower.
Okay, any more comments?
Clear as mud, right?
Just a consideration to restudy, since we're already going to be doing so much. This is just a consideration. If you look on the north elevation, and if you look at let's first look at the east elevation. And I think you rather discussed it, either the east elevation. If you notice the roof line that's covering the dining area, it goes off on a gable end. It looks a little unusual. It looks more like an addition. And if you look at the way that the roof works, I would consider exploring just to make it a hip. Because if you look on the north elevation, what happens when you make it a hip, and I'm just, again, I'm always very cautious but what happens if you make it a hip, and it comes back to here, and then ties back into here, you'll expose more of this turret, and it gives you even more rounding
of the turret, whether it be smaller or bigger. And if you notice, the proportion of the spinning of this area here won't end as abruptly, because you'll have this hip go to here, and then it comes back in here, and you'll get that nice little edge coming around there. I think it will continue to put a nice little accent on that center sphere area. Just a thought that may continue to.
If that were the case, if they were to modify that roof to be a hip, would you suggest they maintain the gable ends at the rear, or?
That one doesn't bother me, because that's now at the end. It's the rear, different. The important one is, yes. Thank you, Mr. Wright.
Keeping us honest.
What happens is that if you look in the east elevation, it doesn't look as abrupt, and that's okay. Being abrupt is okay, but I don't think it's that great here. And if you make it a hip, you continue to follow that nice shape, and you expose more of that circular, and then you match better the area that's over probably the living area. Just a thought.
Anything else? I looked at the landscape plan. I don't have an issue with it. I'll just make one comment as a consideration. You've got a very narrow frontage. You have 3 different kinds of trees in the front that might start to look too much different. You got a jacaranda in the street, and you've got one balanced on each side, and those are both different. You could make them both the same in the front, or just put one tree in. You don't have to have 2 necessarily. But other than that, I think it's okay.
You have one more. I apologize.
Yes.
And I thought you, just another, if you notice the entry of the patio here, it kind of like there's no way to get to it other than going on the grass, or what's called grass, and or the driveway, which you may have a car. I would consider adjacent to this walkway, nice little thin walkway that ties it here, that if there is a car parked here, you have a nice little meandering walkway to get to that entry. Just another little refinement.
You're throwing them out tonight.
No.
I
Zip it, lock it, and put it in my pocket. And when the job is done so well and so lovely, and it deserves it. And not to change the design, but to say, because you did a great job. It's a great, rarely do you see someone demolishing a home and doing something that's an enhancement. So that's why I'm even mentioning that. But you did a very nice job all in all.
I would agree.
Yes.
Okay. You want to?
Make a motion. I'll move to accept.
We got to go over the comments.
Go over the
just
comments.
To make sure we're covered.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alice and Madam Chair. What I would like to get clarification on is because I heard from Mr. Alice and Mr. Nsua about staff's recommendations, and you were leaning towards making them all conditions, and Mr. Nsua felt that they should be all consideration, with the exception of the roofing material, whether it be bale tile or S tile. So I wasn't sure which direction we are pursuing, and whether there's a particular one in the list that you all feel strongly about and would like to make those items conditions and the other items considerations. So you could go down the list.
Which ones you want to pick? I was just
second.
starting to do that. Okay, that one's.
While you guys are looking,
I think 1 and 4 should be. Excuse me. 2 and 4 should be requirements, and the rest conditions.
Well, no, wait a minute. Considerations.
Considerations.
Wow.
That's what I meant with a C.
Madam Chair, would I be able to just ask him a quick question
Yes,
concerning
of
windows?
course.
Sir, architect, real quick question. The bulk of your windows are casement windows, and they're double. Do they open in or open out? My guess is that they probably open in. My guess. I could be wrong. Inward, outward. Do you know what? Okay. The only reason I mention it is the double hung windows in the bedroom. It's not a great big bedroom, and if the windows are coming in, it eats up the, it could it could clash with the side tables along the
Yeah.
bed and the lamps and all that other stuff. That's the only reason I thought why you would put double hung
All the
window there.
rooms are small, so maybe it's a good idea to make that comment.
So I just thought those are the only windows that have it, and because of its location, those windows, double hung would be better functional for that bedroom, especially if they open inward, because then you got the nightstand and the lamp and the pictures of your kids and all that other stuff.
I would say the only ones I would consider as considerations and not conditions would be the first one, the fifth one, the seventh, and the eighth. 1, 5, 7, and 8. But the other ones I would say would be conditions.
I could support that.
I could go with that. Okay. 1, 5, 7, 8.
As recommendations or considerations.
Considerations.
And then the other group of 2, 3, 4, 6, 9, 10, 11 as conditions.
Conditions.
Right.
So the only one that you would change from a condition to a consideration is 5?
No, 1.
1, 5.
Well, 1 is already a consideration, that's why I'm saying.
Okay.
Oh, well, it says it's under a list of conditions, and it says, I
okay.
see how I'm reading it different. That's the same with 7 and 8, say consider, and I'm saying, yeah, those, okay.
Okay.
I looked at them all as starting as conditions and going backwards.
Well, we certainly appreciate that reading of staff's report.
Consider the conditions, right?
We're wondering, Mr. Ellis, when you made your comment about the rotunda, what we inferred from that is that you would suggest that the outer dimension of that be no greater than a third of the width of the house, so that the outer dimension could be, if the current outer dimension is 13 or 14 feet, that it should be reduced to at least an 11-foot outer dimension so that it's a third. That's what we inferred.
That's the direction we're going. Not to step on the architect's toes, but reducing, but that kind of seemed to work for me and size-wise.
That if the other board members agree, that could give us a guideline when working with the applicant, that would be helpful.
I have no problem with that. If it works with the house.
Yeah, I think we all
I don't
three.
want to be hardcore. It's got to be a third.
Right.
It needs to complement the rest of the architecture.
I would agree with you also. I mean, they were looking for a kind of a number, and it seemed, right now, it's big, and
Consider reducing it to, with the architect.
And no more than a third.
and I mean, I look kind of like Ivan. If you were designing, does that number kind of for?
Yeah, I would concur. It does look, in its scale,
Yeah.
larger in its diameter than it should be. By reducing it, a couple of things happen. You get more interior space, especially in that smaller living room and stuff, so it doesn't hurt. But
Consideration.
it can, yeah.
Consideration, right. Well, I think it needs to get smaller. The question just is how much smaller?
Yeah, so
That's where
we have the first part of that, reduce the width of the entry rotunda and arched door opening as a condition, and then on that we could suggest consider reducing the outer dimension to about 11 feet based on fully integrating the design with the overall house.
That's good.
That's a nice big word.
You do this for a living, don't you?
This is in fact my day job.
When you scale it and you start looking at it, I think that I'm comfortable with that. I always don't want to step on the original designer's toe, but it does seem a little large in its design, and these are schematics, so this is the time to start getting those little adjustments.
And also staff heard a number of other considerations, one of which was to consider providing a walkway leading to the entry.
Yes.
Consider exploring a hipped roof over the dining area so that the rotunda or turret will be further exposed. And concerning the walls and gates enclosing the courtyard, whether it be reducing the height or providing holes, openings.
I think the consensus was to reduce the height, and if they wanted to propose something else, enhance the wall or put a trellis or something, but those were just suggestions.
Okay. So, but the main point
Reduce
was
it,
to
yes.
reduce the height,
Right, okay. That would be the gate as well as the,
the wall
Yeah,
itself.
right.
Yes.
both.
And then concerning the landscape in the front yard, as proposed, there are 3 different types of trees, and maybe consider reducing the number or sticking
Quantities,
to
yeah.
or quantity or variety
It's a
or
consideration.
species. Yes.
You know, now I'm saying, did we miss one? I thought I saw something in the staff report about the gate being round, matching the barrel, the arched shape. Did I read that, or is I'm mixing these projects up? That the gate on that front wall matching the arch of the doorway. Did I not? Where did I see that?
I don't believe I made.
Somehow, maybe
When did
I
it-
just thought that up. So maybe I'll
Gate just needs to complement the wall, I think.
the wall and that. Okay, maybe it was the window that I was mixing this up. Well, that front window.
And then just to so that we're all clear and staff is clear concerning the condition and consideration. Number 1, 5, 7, and 8 should be considerations. The other listed items shall be conditions.
Yes. Okay. So the entry doors also arched.
1, 5, 7, 8.
Is that okay with you?
Yeah. I wonder where I picked up this thing on the gate, but maybe
Are we ready to make a motion then?
I'll move to accept with the conditions and considerations as staff has read back.
Second.
Okay, there was a motion by Mr. Ellis and a second by Mr. Insua. This will be roll call. Mr. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Insua?
Yes.
Madam Chair Palmer? The project is approved 3-0. Thank you.
Nice job.
Thank you. We're looking
Very
forward
good
to
job.
seeing it.
Very, very good job.
Yeah.
We have some minutes.
We do. There are 5 minutes on our agenda tonight to approve. Unfortunately, because of a couple people absent tonight, we are only able to approve or act on June 16th and July 28th minutes.
Wow.
So the other minutes will need to, if you could actually hand them back to us, then we won't have to make copies next time.
Okay. The motion to approve June 16th minutes?
Move to approve June 16th minutes.
Second.
Okay, this will be a roll call. Mr. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Insua?
Yes.
Ms. Palmer?
Yes.
Great.
And do we have a motion to approve the July 28th minutes?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the July 28th minutes.
Second the motion.
Okay, this will be a roll call. Mr. Insua?
Yes.
Mr. Ellis?
Yes.
And Ms. Palmer?
Yes.
Great. I have nothing else to say. Nope.
I move we adjourn.
To adjourn?
Great.
We're done.
Job.
Good job. Lickety split.